Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw, and I'm here in Manchester, England. I've been here before, but just got a wonderful tour of this incredible city, actually a food tour. And I'm with Rob Kelly of Scranchester Tours. And Rob gives tours both for food and also all the different history and culture around Manchester. So we just finished this tour. I am full. Just had ice cream, that's right. And we're going to talk about that tour and a whole lot more on Insider Travel Report. First of all, Rob, thank you. It was a wonderful tour. You got a lot of knowledge that we're doing, and we actually started with donuts. Now, how bad can a tour be that starts with donuts? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we started pretty big today. Yeah,
that was it. So we had, although you told me, did I want to start with donuts? We could have ended with donuts. But the other thing about this tour is that you also give really a lot of history of all the, and we're in a quarter, the northern quarter, which is now an up and coming part of Manchester, but back then it was a little bit downtrodden and it wasn't as popular, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, this area originally, it was the market area in Manchester in the 1800s. They moved the markets to here, Colden Smithfield markets, after the ones in London, so it was a huge market area. But then by the 1980s, the markets had all left, and it was a bit of a rough and ready part of the city. It wasn't a place that lots of people go out at night, maybe problems with some antisocial behaviour, I suppose. Right. And then in the 90s, there was a street art trail to kind of change the feel of the area. And now it's the independent heart of Manchester, full of independent shops, bars and restaurants,
And lots of food places. I mean, amazing places that you can go. And so we started, my favorite introduction was a donut, but then we immediately went in talking about all these wonderful buildings and the history behind some of, what was going on. And including, we're right behind a mural. You see a lot of murals around this area, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that art trail in the 1990s, there's still lots of that left, and also there's been other street art campaigns as well, like Cities of Hope, the one that we talked about, which brought some of the world's best street artists to Manchester to do pieces of work related to Manchester charities. Yeah,
we saw some of those earlier. Now, then, all right. So we went to the donut. Now, where do we go next?
After that, we went to a place called Mackie Mare, which was one of the market buildings in the area. It was an old Victorian butcher's market. Again, in the 80s it closed as a market. It was various different things. It was environmental health had it. It was a skateboarding park. Then for a very long time it was left derelict. And now it's a really good food market where you can order food from lots of independent traders. It's a great example of a really well repurposed, beautiful Victorian building. Yeah,
and it was a wonderful thing. We had tacos, but we had a choice. We could have had pizza. We could have had sort of meat stuff. We could have had sort of Asian, Chinese, whatever. You can get anything you want, and then you eat in this big common space, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing about Manchester. It's a very diverse city. It's one of Europe's most linguistically diverse cities. A study by Manchester University in 2015 found that it was 187 languages and dialects spoken in Manchester, and that's kind of represented in the food you can eat here. You can eat food from all over the world.
Yeah, they have wonderful restaurants all through this area, especially in this northern quarter where a lot of new restaurants around. Now, where do we go from there?
After that, we did a bit more walking around. We looked at the old wholesale fish markets in Manchester.
It was a ruined market, but now is an apartment complex, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Another great repurposing of a beautiful building, or the facade at least. And then we went to a place called Tariffindale, which used to be a textile warehouse, and it's now been repurposed as a bar and a restaurant. And we had, I suppose, a slightly high-end take on a typical British thing, which is a sausage roll. So they make their own homemade sausage roll with their own ketchup, which has got a bit of sausage in the ketchup as well, and Andouille sausage, which is like a Calabrian spicy sausage.
It was good. It was really good, and the ketchup was really good. Homemade. It ain't Heinz. It's a lot better than that. And so we were there. So we had gone from donuts to tacos to sausage rolls, right?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And then we moved somewhere else. We kept going here. We're sort of going down more into the center of Manchester, and then where do we go then?
And then we went into a place called Affleck's Palace. It's a big alternative shopping centre. It was built as a department store. Affleck and Brown were a big textile company, and that was their department store. But since the 80s, it's been a big alternative shopping centre. And we went in there and we had ice cream at a place called Ginger's Comfort Emporium, which is award-winning ice cream. The lady that started that, she won the British Street Food Award 3 times for the best dessert.
It was pretty good ice cream, I got to tell you. I had the some kind of cookies and whatever, and you had something else, right?
Yeah, brown butter and cookies, I think you had, and I had the rum bun, which has got bits of rum-infused bun inside the ice cream.
Well, it's very inventive ice cream, and it really is great. And that whole shopping center, as you said, it's really alternative. There are about 4 or 5 floors of it, and you can sort of goes around. I've been there before. There's we're here in live in Manchester. You can hear that, and it really is a great. Aside from the ice cream, the shopping center is a lot of fun to walk around and do all kinds of things. But now, normally, what are the other things you would have in a tour like this?
Sometimes there's lots of small curry canteens around this area which have been here. Some of them have been here since the 80s, from when then this was an area of lots of rag trade around here. So sometimes we go in there, have some curry, right. Or we go to a Victorian chop house and have something maybe like Lancashire hot pot or corned beef hash. We sometimes even go to a place that does New York style pizzas, but they do a sort of a Lancashire take on a New York style pizza. So they do a Lancashire cheese and onion pie pizza. That's a very typical thing from the area.
Okay.
So
that's great. In fact, we had a whole discussion about pizza tours, but that's another story for another day. I'm going to invite Rob over to New York when we're going to do a pizza tour there.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sign me up.
But here, they have pizza here. It's great. So typically you kind of combine food and different things, but you also combine a lot of history and a lot of talk about how this area has developed over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I kind of often try and use the food as kind of a segue into some Manchester food stories. So for example, when we just had ice cream, I talked about the fact there's a place in Manchester called Ancoats, which is an old industrial suburb, the world's first industrial suburb. Lots of Italian families moved there to work in the area in the 1800s. They started ice cream businesses, and they used to sell them in the streets in a thing called a penny lick.
Okay.
But then when they got a better understanding, basically a penny lick was a little glass. You'd go and you'd like lick your glass clean and then give it back to the guy or girl who was selling it.
Probably not the most sanitary thing.
Exactly, yeah. So when they realised a bit better in the 1900s how diseases were spread, they thought that wasn't a great idea. They stopped them from being able to sell them in the street. And then actually in Manchester, the first ever patent for an edible like wafer biscuit cup machine was started here. An Italian Mancunian called Antonio Valvona was behind that. So that's an example of sort of linking in the food that we're eating to the heritage of Manchester and some stories from the city.
And that's what you're really great at, telling all the stories about all that's going on here. And again, this was in the northern quarter. Is really, I was here a few years ago, and it's even a lot of things going on in Manchester. There's new hotels since I was here last. They've been advancing all through COVID, doing a lot of fun things and getting past this pandemic. And now we're here, and Manchester's ready to take its mantle again. Again, great music scene here too, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's lots and lots. There's always seems to be something new happening here in terms of food and drink. Lots of new openings, as you said. There's a place called The Factory, which is opening, a huge cultural venue, which is opening soon in Manchester. So yeah, it feels like a city at the moment, which is booming.
And you actually showed me one music place. You said there was a music club that we passed, right?
Yeah, Band on the Wall. Yeah, it's called Band on the Wall because a long time ago there used to literally be a band which came out onto a shelf on the wall and they play up on the wall. Yeah.
And so now it is a music venue. Go see a lot of stuff up there. And I don't know if I have time tonight, I may go back up there and take a look. Rob, I want to thank you. Anything else? We go out to about 110,000 travel advisors who are booking their clients, and they're curious about Manchester. What would you tell them about your particular tour?
I would say that it's a good way of kind of getting under the skin of the city from a local's perspective. Also learning about the food and drink scene, give you ideas of places to go back to. So I think it's a really good local experience. The tours are very intimate, the public tours. It's only maximum 10 people on those. So yeah, I'd say come to Manchester and try the tour. You get a flavour of the city.
Well, I know I'm planning to go back to some of these venues that I already saw. If I don't do it this time, I'll certainly be back another time. Now, where can travel advisors go to find out about your company and your tour operation?
Yeah, it's scranchestertours.com is a website where you'll find information about the tours. You'll see the reviews on there. In fact, TripAdvisor last year, they rated my tour as the 16th best food experience in the world. So I must be doing something right, yeah. And
there you go. And there are a lot of food experiences. We were talking about it as incredible, the incredible food tours all over the world. But Rob gives a great tour of Manchester, which, you know, people think English food and this is not that great, but it really is. It's wonderful. And also, there's so many varieties here in Manchester, so many different ethnic foods that you can find, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe British food has maybe had a bad reputation in the past, maybe deserved at one point, but I think Manchester, yeah, it's extremely diverse. People doing lots of very interesting things, lots of people starting small independent businesses, and people are very adventurous here, wanting to try food from different places.
Absolutely. Well, and in case you're wondering, this right here, there's a big grill here, and it says grilled cheese on the bottom. So we are in that food vein, right?
Yeah, and it is right over there. Actually, it's a great grilled cheese sandwich, but I'm thinking maybe we're a bit full for that.
I think I'll pass on this side. Maybe the next tour we'll do that like that. Again, Rob, I want to thank you for showing me this wonderful area of Manchester. It's an amazing place to come, and it's one of the sort of essential things you have to do when you're in this fabulous city, aside from going to see some football, right?
Of course, yeah. Well, I would say, to watch Manchester United, but you know,
Man City supporters, forgive him, but that's the way it works. It's actually wonderful. I'm a Man U supporter too. So anyway, again, thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.